welcome to our show, 3D Traders. This is where we talk about three different perspectives on how we approach the market. And you can see that I'm surrounded here with my mastermind. First, we have Patrick, who the designer, creator of What in the World Golf Show. And then we have Everson, who is a magnetic personality, and he actually boxes stocks instead of trades them. So let's go into the show. We have a great show for you today. And the first thing I wanted to get into is, so my belief is that the market is always right. And I know a lot of people fight on me, with me with that topic. But to me, I feel like when a bunch of investors feel like there's value here, they will attack it and the price goes up. When there's fear in the market, it goes down. And so whether I'm right or wrong, just because I feel like the market is always right, that takes away my ability to say, hey, it's the market's fault that I lost money. That way it gives me the control to say, hey, what could I have done differently? It works for me. I sort of wanted to start with Everson and see, do you believe like the market's always right or sometimes right? What's your belief around that topic?
I mean, it's a hard predictor. I mean, if you're using news, if you're using fundamentals, it'd be a really hard predictor because right now we're starting to get into the fundamentals. We had a recent decline the previous week, but it seemed like we made it all back this past week, right? So then you jump to the news, and then you try to find out where the market's going. Part of the news. If you're jumping all over the place, I feel like right now, and I'm gonna seem like I'm jumping on the same bandwagon that you guys are, but I feel like charting is really the go-getter right now. I think charting is really the real deal. I mean, you can. I like to feel out the market, right? So I like to take all the news in. I like to get the news, the fundamentals. I also like to get the technicals, right? I get them all in there, and I feel out the sentiment now. And I go deep with my news. You guys know me, and my clients know me, and everybody who's around me, they know. I like to talk about those topics that really just make people cringe. I'll talk about money. I'll talk about religion. I'll talk about politics. I'll talk about all of them. But it gives me almost like a spiritual edge to be able to just identify things in the markets that even at some points during the weeks, I was able to call where the market was going that one week on an everyday basis before you see the confirmation in the charts, right, Max?
Yeah.
That's to do with when you're really feeling the market. And so it doesn't happen often. I mean, I really need to be in my game to be able to do that. But I'd say the past 2 weeks, I've been testing out different strategies and everything. So to say, I'm getting off topic. To go back to what you were talking about, I think it is like we talked about in the pre-show, where if the crowd...
The pre-show is a secret. You can't tell people about that.
But we'll just give them a little tip. When the bulls are running in one direction, like not necessarily that you should run against the bulls, but in this case, you want to run away from the problem, and take it sideways, or if you can get behind them, the best place would be to be behind them, because perfect example with Facebook, right? We saw Facebook got boycott, $1 billion lost, $10 billion lost, but the stock pops like it's newfound glory or something, like like boycotting is a new bull market or something. And but there's clearly good reasons fundamentally why that happened. I mean, 60 billion in revenue, ad revenue. So they're going to be better.
So do you believe that the market is always right, sometimes right, or always wrong, always lagging? When I say wrong, that's what I mean, lagging.
I think the market lags.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay. And so the thing is, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I just feel like you have to know who you are, how you see the market, and then how do you trade accordingly. So let's go to Patrick. Patrick, what do you think about the market? Is it always right? Is it lagging? Is it sometimes right? What do you feel?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question, and there's a bunch of different ways to analyze it. The thing is that I find the market irrational, but at the same time, like when you look at it from a macro perspective, it makes more sense. What I mean by that is, if you remember last week, I talked about okay, right now there's this conflict between the Robinhood type traders and the more like sophisticated hedge fund type traders. And that causes a lot of instability in the market because the Robinhood traders are full on bullish and or very volatile. And then you have the other more professional traders that don't believe that the market reflects the economy right now. So you have a lot of instability in the market, and as I've talked about before, there's a huge concentration in some of the stocks. And if you look at it that way, I mean, on one hand, the market seems totally irrational. There's some stocks that go up 400% in 2 weeks on almost no news, and there's some stocks that are tanking. But when you look at the macro picture, it makes a lot more sense. So it really depends on which angle you look at it from. And that's the beauty of us three, is the fact that like you get that multiple viewpoints. I see it one way, Max sees it another point, and with those things, that makes us see the market a little bit more rationally because we have these different viewpoints.
We have extreme different perspectives. But I
Very
think that
different.
I think that those retail traders from Robinhood, they're more into those cheaper stocks because oftentimes those guys, they don't have a lot of money that they start off with. I mean, some of them probably do, but oftentimes what I see is they're trading cheaper stocks because they think that if a stock costs under $10 and they get more shares, that somehow it's a better stock. When it could be entirely different. You could have a Berkshire Hathaway, like one share of that. I mean, that'd be a great stock to own. But, you know, in the long run, it'll provide a consistent path of just, you know, going up.
But what I mean by that is, since I showed the chart for the NASDAQ 100, 5 companies own 45% make up 45% of the NASDAQ 100. And they're companies that people believe in, the tech stocks that haven't been re-affected by the current pandemic. So those companies are still strong, but it skews the numbers to where the market looks better than where the economy really is. That's what I mean when I say that.
Did you hear what might be joining NASDAQ?
Yeah. There you go.
What
Everson is.
I don't
want
to say it.
Stock, the rumors and stuff, and that's why it's popped. But so there you go. You have the perspective, and that's why I have this mastermind. It's giving me different ideas and different perspectives, how I might tweak my approach. But the reason why I wanted to start this show with this topic about, is the market always right? Is it always wrong, or is it lagging? It's because last week I was preparing to create these huge bearish positions, some back spreads, you name it. I was going to go very deep into the bearish department, but I was waiting for the confirmation. Like we talked about on another show, I'm actually reactive to the market, not proactive. So I was waiting for that confirmation, didn't get it, and just like Everson had predicted, the market went up. So now here I am standing there like, hey, okay, well, I don't have the signal to get into my put position. So then I started doing research on, why is the market going up? We're getting the most cases ever, and things aren't very bullish. And the inflation that I've been talking about hasn't sort of seeped into the market yet. So I studied about the virus, and I noticed that even though the cases are going up, and that I know we're talking about the virus, people are telling us not to talk about this. YouTube might shut us down, but I feel like as a trader, it's very important to understand what's happening with the virus. Is it, a big deal, a small deal? And I feel like the news media is blowing it out of proportion. So I wanted to start with Patrick about the virus. How is that affecting your trading for the next week?
Well, Max, let's go back to the previous week. It was all about the 4th of July trend. You totally discounted it. I told you it was going to go up. You totally discounted it.
So
you told me that doesn't exist.
Patrick talked about it. No, I didn't say that. I said this year might be different. Right? I said 4th of July usually goes up. I felt like this year might be different. So Patrick called it. Go ahead.
I know. I agree with you. I thought that was going to go down on Monday too. I mean, everything looked so bearish the week before. But anyway, no,
Rainbow bear.
no, he's right though. Next week seems like I have to agree with Everson on this one. Like because the media focuses so much on it, and with good reason, in my opinion. But the fact that a lot of cases, we all thought that the second wave would be in the fall. So we thought that the stock market would grow like pretty normally. Until then, people had a lot of high hopes. But because it's a lot earlier than we expected, it should be bearish. But it hasn't been. People want to buy stocks. People are afraid of buying too late, and like they already missed it went from 220 to 320 before pulling back. People are afraid that they're going to miss it as it goes up. So even though in theory it should be down next week, I think it's probably going to be up again.
So he's calling another week up, and I feel the same way. I feel like that on the SPY, the 321 level is very important.
Well, let's
Just
hold up
because
though.
if we can break that, but I wanted to go with Everson.
Yeah,
Tell
hold
me
up.
about the virus. How is that going to affect your trading next week?
I'm going to challenge that because I think that there should be an opposition. I like to say, I'd like to go with that. I think that the market's going to go down. We still haven't had the results from the tests. We're probably going to have a bunch of them. That's what they predict in the news and everything. So we'll probably have a bunch of them. More states now have commissioned officers to make it, unlaw. If you're not wearing a mask here in Hawaii, you can get cited with $5,000. And I think there's more states. I know it violates our constitutional right to be able to force us to be able to do this, but they have some loopholes, like if you have asthma and stuff like that, you don't have to wear it. So I had childhood asthma, so I'm not going to wear a mask. But I think that the market's predicting that people are going to be buyers. And I think there's a certain segment of those that are still fearful because there's a lot of percentage, like in the millions of people that watch the news, and that news is God to them. So these are your traders that will be more bearish. And I think that when you're looking at the Robinhood traders and such, those that just jump in, these retail traders can actually turn the market because they have turned the market before. We look no further than Hertz buying in at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So they could definitely turn the market. All you would
But
need
Everson,
is a little bit
I
of
have to ask
support
you.
from
Sorry, I
the
don't mean to
outside
interrupt you, but
international.
what is left to be bearish on? Like which companies can go down this much? Like all these companies, the ones that are most affected by the pandemic already
Airlines.
crashed, right? So yeah, they can go lower, but as we talked about in the show,
Gas
sorry,
companies.
I shouldn't say that all the time, but like those cruise liners, they're not going to sink them at the bottom of the ocean. So the company is going to have value as long as people think that within a year or two, they're going to sail again. So
Well,
how
that's the
low can
thing.
they? How much lower can they go? The tech stocks aren't going to go down. Like we already said that they're benefiting from the situation. Coke isn't going to go down because people are still going to drink Coke and Pepsi, and you know what I mean. So what
Coke is
companies
stagnant.
still have a lot of room to go down?
Well, to answer your question, Coke is stagnant. I'm a buyer of Coke, and that stock hasn't made me money all year. So it's stagnant. It's just, bouncing around by wherever it is.
Yeah.
I just collect the dividend. I don't know. I mean, it's consistent, but it's consistently low. It hasn't even provided very much interest. And you talk about some, companies that are not producing. I mean, look no further than, even if you have a sitting cruise ship, you still have to clean that ship, and it costs millions of dollars to be able to take care of just cost alone to be able to maintain all of this. So they are paying a cost, and therefore you have to seek funding from banks. And what happens when banks can't collect their money because these shipping companies, these airline companies go on default? Then they look for, Uncle Sam. Then the feds have to step in and try. Feds are already flooding the market with trillions of dollars. So Uh, I'll be a bad advocate, right? So, you know, realistically, it could be a green day. But I'm saying that we need to open up our perspectives and not just expect that it's going to be a green day and get bit when the bears come out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to look for that confirmation, and that's why I prefer to be reactive instead of proactive. But the reason why I sort of wanted to talk about the virus and how it's affecting our population is you see it all over the news, and there are very few pieces of articles that are being bullish right now. But even though everything's bearish out there, the market's going up. So I was studying the virus, and it shows that. And so first off, we are not professionals in viruses. All we're trying to do is identify what's
We're not
happening in the
medical
world.
professionals.
Exactly. And so what's happening in the world and how can we make money off of this? And so what I found is that 94% of people that have a vitamin D deficiency can die from the virus, or are dying from the virus. And then it's like 96% of people that have a vitamin D sufficiency or surplus are actually very safe from the virus. And so I feel like a lot of the very experienced traders, hedge funds, and corporations had this information very early. And so even though the cases were going up, they understood that, hey, you know what? It's not going to affect the population that bad. It's time to buy, and you see the market going up. The next price level that's going to be very important is, like I said, that SPY at 321. If we can break that without any bullish news, once we have some bullish news, I mean, it's going to go up. So let's go on to the next topic.
Hey, Max, real quick. I think it was in combination with the vitamin A also, because vitamin A is what coats the blood so that the virus can't come in and duplicate itself. So that gives it like an extra layer of protection, the vitamin A. And the vitamin D comes in for, I think it was like overall or something like that. But they were saying that you needed the 2 or something like that. Yeah. I know where you were listening to that one doctor, and he'd given some good facts.
He's talking about that, and so those are the numbers I'm looking at. My whole entire investing strategy is looking at charts and understanding the numbers and how it's going to affect the future, and that's what I'm seeing. So let's move on to the next topic, and I wanted to start with Everson. Are you bearish or bullish? And then a follow-up question is, what would you need to see in the market to flip? So let's say you're bearish, what would you need to see in the market to become bullish? And so take it from there.
So I'm actually moving into this market after, we had a pretty good week last week. I'd like to say every day was a green day. We had 4 green days. We haven't had a bear day yet. I think we get a bear day on Monday. I'm preparing for a bear day on Monday. But, there's a possibility that we gap below all the way across the board. Like I said, I want to do my international studies also to be able to kind of get an aspect with what's happening elsewhere also, and then do my due diligence with checking out hedge markets and everything to kind of get that confirmation as well. But, sentiment being, we're in due time for another bearish market. So what changes my mind in becoming a bull? I think that, like I said, if we see a gap down, but we see a lot of stocks across the board start to trend higher, if past sucker hour, which is that first hour, right? If past sucker hour, we start to see that trend to continue, I think that we may be able to look at a bearish day. But I would like to take each day by day and not just consider it as a whole entire week. I would like to consider an entire week as being a even to down week. So maybe about 5 to 10% percentage points below, just so we can give ourselves that even correction, right? But if like I said, the hedge funds, surrounding hedge funds, and my indexes fall in line, as well as what's happening internationally, and then I see it in the charts, once the technicals start to add up, then I'm already making plans to be able to get ready for this bull market.
Good. So Now let's pass on the topic to Patrick. And so I'm going to be straight with you. Are you a bear? Are you a rainbow bear? Or are you a bull for this market right now? And what piece of information, what catalyst would you what catalyst would you need in order to switch?
All right. So honestly, I'm very conflicted. I mean, you guys know about that. I'm bullish on some sectors. I'm bearish on some sectors. And I think that it's like we really don't know what the federal government is going to do, because when the current unemployment ends, like last week we had really good unemployment news. The numbers were pretty good, the new jobs and everything. But once the unemployment stops and people stop getting the $600 per week, that's when like crap might hit the fan.
Right.
So is the government going to extend it until January like they've been talking about? Is there going to be more helicopter money that's going to fuel spending? If yes, then I'm going to keep being bullish on like certain sectors and everything. But if they decide, you know what, like the economy is recovered more than we thought, we're not going to do it, then I'm going to be really bearish. And the reason why is I think that eventually, sooner or later, the housing market is going to crash if, you know, nothing changes and they stop giving the unemployment checks. It has to, because a lot of people haven't been paying their mortgages. So it's just what we call, I talk about it as the ripple effect. One thing is going to lead into another. As people start losing, already lost their job, stop paying their mortgages, eventually now in a lot of states, the foreclosures are restarting. Well, one thing is going to lead to another. And so we'll see if the federal government intervenes again and pumps a lot of money and keeps the unemployment and the jobs rate keep going up, like in positively, then that's going to be very bullish for me. But if they don't, I think that sooner or later, like short term, it's going to keep going up, but eventually it's going to reverse. I know it's kind of like conflicting, but
No, the job numbers are significant, though. We've seen what job numbers have done. And so if people really do go back to work, I think you're right. I think we start to see a bull market.
Yeah. And so that sort of agrees with my stance. Right now, I'm bullish. Last week, I was looking for that big bearish play. It wasn't there. I'm bullish just because I'm seeing how less deadly the virus is, and I'm seeing how other people are agreeing with that. The market's going up. So I'm bullish until I see that we can't break that 321 level on the SPY. Once that happens and I see a reversal, then I'll be bearish for a while. So that's basically all the time we have for the show
Max,
today.
before you
we've
close
gone.
out, close out the show, I just wanted to say, isn't it funny how we're testing the most in the world, and all of our testing kits come from China?
Yeah, they had that 60-minute little segment, which was really interesting, and so it kind of took away the trust from the testing. But hey, that's all the time we have, and you can see why I'm surrounding myself with these beautiful minds. It's giving you guys amazing content, information, so that you guys can take this, go into the market, and make money because you're more educated, more knowledgeable about what's happening. So we will see you in the next episode. If you guys like the content, make sure you bring your friends, subscribe, send us a comment, suggestions, questions. We love that kind of information. Make it a great day or not. The choice is yours.